Hello, my name is Bellot. Welcome to this video presentation. Today I'll be looking at the effect of stress on digestion and absorption. Now have a look at this tiger. What would you do if this tiger came charging after you? Would you stand there, stroke it and play with it? Or would you want to run away? I certainly know what I would do. I want to run away from this tiger because I knew I was no match for it. And that's the way that God made us. It's a natural thing to do. It's a natural response, a natural reaction. And it's called the sympathetic nervous response or the fight or flight response. Now what happened in this response is that the pupil will dilate, the liver will release glycogen, that's stored glucose, into the bloodstream. The heart rate would go up, blood pressure would go up, and the digestive enzyme would be inhibited, saliva would be inhibited, and so no digestion would take place. And so in this sympathetic system, you're not resting, you're not digesting, or you're repairing. Now the opposite to that is the parasympathetic nervous system, and in that system it's completely opposite. So you're resting, you're digesting, and you're repairing. So blood pressure would go down, heart rate would go down, you'd release the digestive enzyme and the saliva needed to digest and absorb the food. And so the two symptoms don't operate all together at the same time. When one is up, the other is down. And that's to prepare us for fight or flight in a situation of a threat or a perceived threat. Now, the interesting thing, the body doesn't know the difference between the different stresses that we might face. So, for example, you might have a physical threat, and that threat could be a dog barking at you, it could be an accident, it could be falling off a ladder, it could be a number of things, a physical threat. And then we have the psychological threat that we may face or perceived threat, and that could be marital problems, it could be other emotional problems, it could be relationship problems with family, peers or children, it could be financial problems, it could be anything on the psychological level. And then we have the environmental threat. Now there are 80,000 toxins in our world today, and we could be subjected to any one of those threats. And so our body would react in the same way as if we saw a tiger coming towards us. And so it's important that when we're in this sympathetic state or this fight or flight state, the last thing we want to do is to eat food, because there's no digestive enzyme, there's no saliva being secreted to start the digestive process. And I did speak at length about the digestive system and the enzyme required to digest our food in the last video. So you could always catch up with that if you wanted to know more about that. But if we're stressed at any time and we begin the process of eating food, it's just going to stay, because there's no digestive enzyme, it's going to stay there, it's going to putrefy, it's going to rot, it's going to attract parasites to this, and all of this is become a toxic, ever-some burden for our body. So it's just going to wear us down even more. So what we need to do is to try to come out of that situation as best as we can. And the reason why we're in this situation is because in our stomach, also known as the enteric nervous system, we have hundreds of neurons, millions of neurons. And those neurons communicate with our brain, the central nervous system. So the enteric nervous system is what controls digestion. So have you ever had that butterfly in your stomach? You're going for an important meeting, or it could be an exam, or anything that's really important to you, and you get the butterfly because you're anxious, you're nervous. And that's because of all these neurons in our stomach that's really communicating with our central nervous system. So there is a two-way communication that's going on. And this is done by the vagus nerve. Now the vagus nerves run from the stomach up to the brain and down to the stomach again, right back down again. So we have our brain and our stomach is not two separate systems. It's one system. Now, so for example, the stomach, if that's weakened, the nerve power from the brain is called on to support that weakened digestive system. and vice versa, because there's an intimate relationship between the two. When one is affected, the other sympathizes. Now, stress, it's okay on a short-term basis. It has to be there for us to be alerted to danger, to flee from danger. But where the problem lies is that we are continually stressed on a daily basis. Now, back in the day of the hunter-gatherer, he would face the tiger, and that's all he would have to deal with that tiger. But for us in this modern day world, we go through so many stresses. We have so many tigers or perceived tigers in our life that we're continually stressed. We have a vicious circle where we're in this sympathetic state, where we're not resting, we're not digesting, we're not repairing. And so it's putting a huge burden on our body. In addition, stress releases the steroid hormone cortisol, which is released from the adrenal glands, and that damages the intestinal lining. It also creates large gaps in the microvilli and in the small intestine. That's where we do our digestion and absorption of our nutrient. Now, when those tight junctions are broken apart, what happens now is that large molecules of food begins to seep through, goes through right into the bloodstream. Not only does it let those large molecules of food through, but it also lets through toxins, parasites, bacteria, viruses, and a whole host of other things. Now, when we think that 80% of our immune system lies behind the gut, then it pays attention for us to be looking after that area, because all of this burden is also weakening the immune system, so we can't fight off more serious things that could come upon us, for example, like cancer. So we need to keep, for optimum health, we need to have that, look after our immune system. And what happens also with this condition of the leaky gut, it creates inflammation, and it starts a cascade of autoimmune condition. So it could be affecting our brain, our skin, any parts of the body which are weakest link. We could find those autoimmune affecting. And then it also, stress we know is a number one killer. So it causes a lot of degenerative diseases. So we have things like heart disease. We have things like hypertension, rheumatism, arthritis, and a whole host of degenerative diseases. That's all coming from the stress that we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. So the ideal the situation that we want to be in the parasympathetic state. In this state, we're resting, we're digesting, and we're repairing, because each day, we have this destruction of oxidative stress on our body, free radicals and so on, and so we need to be able to build and repair our body. But you think of it, if the microvilli are destroyed, the micronutrients are not going through, then we're not going to be able to build and repair. Instead, we're going to be causing a destruction. Now, God, He made us, our good Lord made us, and He, as our Maker, has given us an instruction manual of how we ought to care for our body. And one of the things He said in that manual is that a merry heart is like medicine, but a broken spirit dryeth the bone. So these things we need to reflect on. Now, in the next video, what I'll be doing is be going through a few strategies of how you can modulate that stress response, how you can diffuse that stress response. So the next time you come upon the tiger in your life, or the perceived tiger in your life, you'll be able to modulate that response very quickly, so you can return to the parasympathetic state, the optimal state, where you can rest, digest, and repair. Thank you for watching this video, and see you next time. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button below. Thank you.